Hey everybody, Espira, and we're back with another Battle Spirits Saga video. Today covering the sideboard cards you should be looking to include in your deck going into the History of Dawn meta. There's a good bevy of cards. The game being a splashable color game means that, hey, if this yellow card is super sick, I can use it in my non-yellow decks, which gives us a good amount of options to be able to deal with what our opponents are doing. Going over the set, there's not a ton of them, but there's a good number of them, enough that you should at least try to mitigate the tactics that your opponents will be trying to deploy. Jumping right into it, the first one we'll be looking at is Stormbeast Emperor Thunder Leon, a 5-cost 2 red reductions on levels 1, 2, and 3. When summoned, destroy all of your opponent's spirits with 2k or fewer BP. Your opponent's when destroyed effects are not triggered by this effect. So if your opponent is going for a go wide strategy against you, this is a great way to kind of lower that down. There are some colors that this is really bad against. Most things in red, outside of like their 1-drops, actually outsize the 2k drop. But if you're going up against yellow aggro, if you're going against purple that are trying to go wide with their curses and not really trying to go big, this can hit all of that. And then in the later game, if you are on a level 3, when it attacks, you get to draw a card, so it replaces itself. It is a super valuable card, not a main deckable one. If you're playing red, you could argue main decking like a copy or two. But generally speaking, the power of this card is very much going to be in the fact that we're going to be able to play it in our sideboards. Alternatively, there is the Sky Dragon Lord Platinum, which is a 6-cost 3 white reductions on levels 1, 2, and 3. When summoned, return all spirits with 3k BP to their owner's hands. It's everything, so it means you and your opponent, but you can obviously play around it because you can set up your board in a way where this won't board wipe you. But nevertheless, this is definitely something to be mindful of. It's another card that you can utilize. It hits 1k above, and the difference between 2 and 3 KBP is a pretty night and day. So it's another significant one to consider. If you are already in white, it's much more splashable than just playing the 5 for Leon. But nevertheless, they kind of hit on that same kind of thing. One is proper destruction and also prevents your opponents from getting proc triggers, which is pretty relevant when you're playing against purple, let's say. Whereas Sky Dragon Lord, it's tempo, but they'll be able to redeploy their threats afterwards. So it's something to keep in mind. Moving on from there, the next staple is going to be subscribing to the channel. If you guys enjoy these Battle Spirits Saga videos, it super helps out the channel to know that you guys subscribed and come back for more. So if you guys want to hit that button, it'll let me know that you guys want to see more of these types of videos from me. Moving on, we've got Divine Halberd Dragonheart, a 3-cost 2 red reduction star dragon on levels 1, 2, and 3. Neither player's life can be reduced by an attack from a spirit that has 2k or fewer BP. So again, more aggro prevention, but this time just sits on the board. It is symmetrical, so you can't damage your opponent, but if you're running this card, odds are you're setting up your board in a way that it's not really an issue. In Star Dragons, most of your cards start base at 3k anyway, so it's not really that big of a deal. And then as a level 2 or 3, when the spirit attacks, select one of your opponent's spirits with 2k or fewer BP and destroyed. Super annoying ability. You'd be surprised how much stuff this actually gets to hit. So this card, incredibly good. It's another one of those options where if you don't want to go as heavy as Leon, but you want to slow down your opponent and then have the ability to kind of mitigate board along that, Divine Halberd is a incredible card for that. Then we're going into white with Pegacione. Peg Horse. Peg Horse it is. 3-cost 1 white reduction spirit on levels 1, 2, and 3 has armor red and purple, which is not bad. But the biggest thing is on levels 2 and 3, during your opponent's attacks up, if the spirit has a soul core on it, it can block your opponent's spirits with 2 or fewer cores on them, even if exhausted. So this is a pretty big deal in terms of, again, mitigating aggro. And why is that? True Champ Steven told me best when we were talking during the demo over in Vegas that we did together, where he was saying, never disrespect your opponent's aggro. And it's cards like these that allow you to not disrespect your opponent's aggro or disrespect them knowing that you have the ability to defend yourself afterwards. So the ability to block while exhausted is huge. Your opponent's gonna have to play around it in a few ways. It means that instead of being able to attack 6 or 7 times, maybe they're only able to attack 2 or 3 times, utilizing bigger bodies. And then by the time that they deal with Peg Horse, they won't really have a way to be able to move the cores around to be able to finish you off. So cards like these are just a good one to consider, especially since it's got armor red and purple, which is considerable. Red and purple are lining up to be the best colors in set 1. So the ability to say, this is going to stick on board, you're not going to be able to deal with it until I want to utilize it for my blocks, is an incredibly big deal. Then moving on, we've got Head Ice Maid Fulla, 3-cost, 2-cost reduction Ice Princess Spirit. Levels 1, 2, and 3, your opponent's effects cannot remove cores from this spirit or any spirit with a soul core on it, which is a significantly big deal. Like we just said, purple is going to be absolutely massive in the meta. So the ability to say that your removal doesn't hurt me is a big deal, especially if, let's say, you want to play the yellow luster OTK and you absolutely need Michaela on board. Well, then Head Ice Maid will ensure that you can put your Soul Core on Michaela, which you want to do anyway, so that there's already that synergy right there. And then from there, you're able to go off on your combo and know that your removal or opponent's removal is not going to be able to hit your core piece. So huge sideboard piece. Honestly, going into this meta, almost like if you have a card that you absolutely need on board, or even if you just want to make sure that you can maintain your board, the Ice Maid is absolutely necessary, in my opinion. One of the most incredible sideboard pieces we have going into the set 1 meta. Then we've got Burning Force. I love this card, love this card, love this card. If anything, looking through people's deck builds as we've been trying to figure out what we want the set 1 meta to look like, I think not enough people are running Burning Force main deck, let alone side deck. And that's why it also took a spot in my Staples video, which you guys can go ahead and check in the top right corner if you guys haven't seen it so far. So Burning Force is a 5-cost 2-red reduction magic that on main, you get to select one of your opponent's Nexuses and destroy it. Nexuses impact the game so incredibly much. We're talking about purple being able to draw 3, 4, or 5 cards a turn. We're talking about Cathedral ramping your yellow opponent and then allowing them to draw cards. Like, it is insane how incredibly good the Nexuses are in this first set, and having a way main deck to be able to deal with that is the best way to manage it, and Burning Force just happens to be the best way to be able to do that. And then on main flash, select 2 of your opponent's spirits with 3k or free BP and destroy them. So if for whatever reason you do not have a way to be able to destroy your opponent's Nexuses, it effectively 2-for-1s, which again is absolutely incredible. I love this card, and it definitely needs to start seeing more play. Then we've got all the wall type abilities. So effectively what we're looking at here is any card that you can kind of staple as Ice Shield copies 5 through 8, right? So in red, that'd be Firewall. In purple, that'd be Bloody Rain. In white, that would be like Suppression plus a body. So anything that effectively says, I get this off, and generally speaking, I should be able to live to see another day. You should definitely main board for Absolute Ice Shields, but after that, you should consider if you need some additional support, depending on if you're playing against an opponent's aggro deck or something like that. Some of them you could even consider main decking, but they're definitely a consideration. I wouldn't say they're mandatory, but I'd say if you are concerned about aggro and you feel like you don't have enough defensive options, then you should consider at least boarding these when you do face off against aggro. And then finally, to cap it off, we have a couple of honorable mentions. These are definitely not good right now, but are worth thinking about in the future. So we have Spear Angel here, a 4-cost 3 yellow reduction angel with a level 1 and 2. During either main step, all Nexuses lose their level 1 effects and cannot regain them. This is really not great right now. A lot of the best abilities we have are actually during the attack step, not even the main step. So it's a card that like basically does almost nothing right now. I guess it prevents on some placement abilities, which like a couple of cards have, but it's a card that you need to consider later, right? This is something that like if you can pick up your foils now and you have it in your back pocket for whenever the game event inevitably does have a Nexus that works on main step, then that's something to consider. From what I've done for my research, blue is like a big Nexus color, and we haven't even gotten blue yet. So it's the kind of things to think about for the future. Another honorable mention is Heavenblade Dragon Ryute, a 4-cost fabled beast for 2 yellow reduction. On levels 1, 2, and 3 during either main step, cores that would be placed into either player's life are placed on this spirit instead. And on levels 2 and 3 during your turn, your spirits cannot be returned to your hand or deck by an opponent's effects. So that level 1 is really kind of why we're having it here. The only reason that it's here at the moment is because we don't really have regeneration effects. The only real way is through like a blessed card, which isn't even that good. It's like a vanilla aside from being blessed. And I will say the biggest thing we can consider for this is specifically Sigworm. If we're going to Nova, this card existing on the board prevents that. So this is like honorable mention, but like actually maybe like super spicy tech for the set 1 meta, because this card being on board effectively says your opponent needs to deal with it. Now, it's not impossible for red to get rid of a 2k. It's actually kind of negligible, but it just goes to show that they need to deal with it before being able to go into Nova and then gaining life. So I think that's hilarious, and definitely something you should at least consider. I don't think it's great, but it's a card that'll, you know, especially at 4, meaning you can play it on like turn 2 if you're the first turn player. I think the card is definitely one to consider, especially moving forward when we get more regeneration abilities. And if you stick to any Bandai games, you know, the Digimons of the world and stuff, they do absolutely love their regeneration abilities depending on the color. So the fact that this is a game that has regeneration built in is definitely something you should consider going into your sideboard pieces in the future. So if you want to pick up a couple of copies now, I wouldn't blame you. But with that said, guys, those are the best sideboard pieces I could find for the set 1 meta of History of Dawn for Battle Spirits Saga. If you guys think I missed anything, please let me know down below, because there's definitely probably a tech or two that I did miss. And, sharing with the community will be a great way to get everyone ready for Vegas. With that said, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Hey, if you dislike it, thumbs down works too. If you want to catch more of my videos, again, subscribe. I'm going to be posting more of these. And with that said, I'll catch you guys on the next one.